Today, let's delve into the complex relationship between Pakistan and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and understand why Pakistan, despite its large population and abundant natural resources, cannot seem to survive without IMF assistance. What is the IMF? The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is a cooperative institution established in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference to ensure the stability of the international financial system. Unlike its twin institution, the World Bank, which focuses on long-term development projects, the IMF provides temporary financial assistance to countries facing severe economic difficulties. Pakistan's need for the IMF. Pakistan has turned to the IMF for financial assistance 22 times in its history, highlighting a pattern of economic mismanagement and short-term fixes. The reasons behind this dependency are multifaceted. 1. Economic mismanagement. Political instability. Frequent changes in government lead to inconsistent economic policies. Corruption. Pakistan is ranked 140th out of 180 countries on Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index. Poor tax collection. Only 1% of Pakistan's population pays income tax, resulting in one of the lowest tax-to-GDP ratios in the world, below 10%. 2. Debt accumulation. High military expenditure. Pakistan spends approximately 4% of its GDP on defense, significantly higher than the global average. Negligible growth and investment. Foreign direct investment, FDI, in Pakistan remains low due to a lack of investor confidence, with FDI inflows of only $2.56 billion in 2021. The relationship. Imagine a broke man, Pakistan, repeatedly borrowing money from a neighbor, IMF. Despite over a dozen attempts, the man fails to manage his finances, ignores the neighbor's advice for improvement, and then blames the neighbor for his own financial troubles. This analogy aptly describes Pakistan's relationship with the IMF. Why does Pakistan blame the IMF? It's common for Pakistani officials and the public to blame the IMF for economic hardships. However, these accusations often serve as a deflection from the real issues. The IMF imposes conditions to ensure that the borrowed funds are used effectively and that structural reforms are implemented to stabilize the economy. Unfortunately, successive Pakistani governments have often agreed to these conditions to secure funds but failed to follow through on necessary reforms. Recent developments. Political blame game. Government officials, like Finance Minister Ishaq Dar, deflect blame onto the IMF, alleging it imposes unreasonable conditions rather than addressing internal issues. Lack of credibility. The IMF and friendly nations like Saudi Arabia now demand stringent reforms before offering assistance due to Pakistan's history of unfulfilled commitments. The IMF has set a condition that Pakistan must first secure $6 billion from other bilateral partners. Dependency on IMF. Pakistan has sought IMF assistance 22 times, demonstrating a pattern of short-term fixes rather than long-term solutions. Each government promises reforms but fails to implement necessary changes, leading to repeated financial crises. Pakistan's debt-to-GDP ratio stands at 87%, and foreign exchange reserves have been critically low, dropping to less than $3 billion in recent times, barely enough to cover a few weeks of imports. Conclusion: Pakistan's economic crisis is self-inflicted, a result of decades of poor management and failure to address fundamental issues. The nation must embrace difficult reforms, enhance tax collection, curb corruption, and invest in sustainable development to break free from this cycle of dependency on the IMF and other external lenders. Call to action. To achieve lasting economic stability, Pakistan must take responsibility for its financial health, implement meaningful reforms, and build a resilient economy. Only then can it hope to avoid future crises and reduce dependency on external assistance.